remember that. Okay, that's better. I can see the readout now. So, our Tully video actually just went live like about 5 minutes ago. So this is Jacob. You've seen him in some reviews before, and the one we just made, and this is the day after we saw Tully. And today we are going to do I've wanted to do more of these, but we just haven't because Morgan and I haven't had time when we watched season 4 of Black Mirror and got to react to every episode. And today, I'm here with Jacob. We're going to do that with my favorite TV show, Mr. Robot. Because you know nothing about the show, right? Like, literally nothing.
I wish I could say yes.
Really? How did you find out?
When Ralph uploaded his review for Mr. Robot, I watched like 5 minutes of it, but...
Okay, so you didn't watch the spoiler section.
Like a minute of the spoiler section.
Okay.
I don't even know why he brought this up, because I don't even remember what he spoiled.
Okay, yes! Okay, so Mr. Robot is a very twisty show. Has a lot of things that happen that you don't see coming.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that my favorite TV show both of us have already seen.
And is very long.
Wasn't this long?
I mean, it's 10 episodes of one season.
No, there's not a season 2?
Yeah, there's 3. It's 30 episodes, like 24-ish hours. But Monster is, what, 80...
74.
74.
But the
divide that by 3, and that's about 30 hours.
Yeah, well, the episodes are like 22 minutes.
Less than 30.
And then...
Yeah, I know, but that's why I divided the number of episodes by 3, because that's how you get an hour.
I wouldn't mind watching Brotherhood with you again.
I would. I think I want to get Morgan in on that too, because he's only seen... I think he's only seen up to episode 15? Like, he's only seen the first season.
That's as far as I got in the original 2003 show before I stopped watching.
That's all you really need, to be perfectly honest.
Did he ever... how far is he in Monster?
As far as we watched when you were here that one time, a long time ago.
Didn't you say he watched a couple more, though?
I don't think so. But anyway, this is just the introduction, so... Ta-da! Okay, we just watched the pilot episode of Mr. Robot. I think the longest episode of the show, clocking in at an hour. So, yeah, thoughts?
Yeah. It's a show.
I'm beginning to regret this.
I had a feeling you would say that if I kept quiet.
I'm eating, that means you have to talk.
It was real good.
You know you're doing this for a living, right?
I'm not good off the cuff.
Okay. Well, one of the things, as somebody who is completely caught up with the show, that I find interesting is, well, first of all, they bookend it well. They start, the first shot is the shot of the guys in the dark talking in front of the buildings, and then it ends in that same room.
Right.
Which I think is smart. Very well bookended episode, but it's just something that I love about this show is that every episode feels like a movie. Not in the sense that it has like a 3-act structure, but in the sense that like the production never like dips. It always feels like Esmail's hand is in every frame of how this works. Like, I think this is better shot than most movies. I think it's as well edited. Its score is incredible. I listen to this soundtrack all the time when I'm working.
Yeah, I did pick up on all those things.
And I think, again, one of the reasons I like it so much visually is because it's lit like a David Fincher movie. It's got a lot of warm glows and shadows.
I was getting a lot of Social Network vibes.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the music, the editing, the montages. What do you think of Elliot?
What? Quite an interesting protagonist we got here.
I have a thing for vigilante characters that I find really... Like, Elliot's probably my favorite lead character in, like, a television show. Not just because of where he's taken, just... He's a fascinating guy.
Well, if the rest of the show is as good as... If he's as good in the rest of the show as he is in this episode, he could be up there.
And performance-wise, Rami Malek is incredible.
Because, Walter White is,
True.
one of my favorite protagonists in a TV show.
He's certainly up there.
Although, to be fair, though, Bryan Cranston is a beautiful man.
But I think Rami Malek is also a beautiful man. I think his performance is very, it's very subtle in a lot of ways. It's very understated. I think he... And especially from, Rami Malek hasn't done anything before this. The biggest movie role he had, before Mr. Robot even happened, was the Emperor, or the Pharaoh in the Night at the Museum movies.
It's like how Bryan Cranston was just the guy from Malcolm in the Middle before.
Yes, exactly. And Sam Esmail, the director and writer and showrunner of the series, he made one movie before this. That's it. And then he just suddenly started doing this, and now he's one of my favorite creative voices in the business.
And Elliot is basically if Jesse Pinkman was a nerd.
Yeah, the strung out junkie, but also a really, really tech savvy, lonely. But that's the thing I love about Elliot.
I want Aaron Paul to guest star.
Well, I mean, there a lot of people show up in this show. This has a very great, large cast of well-rounded characters. And in terms of more, we keep getting new characters in every season, so I wouldn't put that outside the realm of possibility.
Gatorade me, bitch.
The best part, though, is that, this is clearly Elliot's episode, but, every other major player shows up in the first season, and you get, a hint at what they're like, but they all get developed by the end.
I think my favorite character at the end of the episode was Angela.
Angela's great. I think she is a underrated character in this series because she's Elliot's anchor into the real world. She's clearly the best friend character who has enough of a social life and has enough of enough going on with herself that she can pull Elliot down to reality a bit. And I don't think but they're also connected. They're childhood friends. It probably mentioned something about it, but their parents both worked for E-Corp at one point, and he said that his father, at the beginning of the episode, he said his father died because they got cancer, and it was probably related to the business. So that also comes into play, and I find that aspect of this season very interesting as well.
Well, someone mentioned the story of their parents' backstory at some point in the episode. Was it Mr. Robot that told this?
Oh, is it about his dad being a thief?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Christian Slater, who... Oh man, Christian Slater's so good in this show. He's so charismatic. He's not even playing a character, he's literally just being himself. He's being JD from Heathers, but grown up. If he didn't die.
Is that a bad thing?
No, not at all. I love Christian Slater in this. He's fantastic. And you liked Tyrell, the guy who was talking to him about Linux when he walked into the office. He is one of the most interesting characters in any show I've ever seen.
The executive guy?
Yeah, you don't... Let me just tell you this. You have no idea where he's going. That's the best part about this. This reminds me a lot of 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, in the sense that it has all these really set up interesting characters and takes them in directions that you could never have possibly seen. Which is why I think it's exceptionally well written.
That movie needed more Woody Harrelson.
Every movie needs more Woody Harrelson, though.
Is he in the show at some point?
No, he's not. Who does show up later as actors. One of my favorite roles is by a rapper by the name of Joey Badass. He's amazing. He shows up in the show.
His name is Joey Badass.
Yes, he is. And he is one of the most entertaining people in the show. Bobby Cannavale shows up later, and he is one of my favorite characters. Grace Gummer, Meryl Streep's daughter, shows up, and she's one of my favorite characters in the show as well.
You brought up the Tyler Durden comparison.
Oh, yes, how the plan is to erase the consumer credit history, because it's basically the same plan, except not, because the plan in Fight Club would have never worked. Ever.
I mean, if Edward Norton worked hard enough, maybe.
No, I mean, they succeeded. The buildings blow up in the end, but it won't do anything. Like, they just kind of thought that it would.
Like, oh yeah, I'm going to erase everyone's credit card debt by blowing up a building.
Yeah, here this is like, you can tell Sam Esmail was like, that's a great premise for something. I'm going to do that and make it, like, the point. I'm going to make that real. This is not the last... There is a very clear and definite Fight Club homage at the end of the season.
Just clear David Fincher homage.
Yes. I actually say that this show, every season is a combination of a few different movies. The first season is Requiem for a Dream, which is honestly most of the show also, Fight Club, The Social Network, and, like, Macbeth. Weird one in that last one, but we haven't gotten to that part yet. Second season is, like, Blade Runner, honestly. And the third season... The third season's genre is...
You're really selling it there, aren't you?
I'm not kidding. The third season's the best season of TV I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Not my favorite, but the best.
Well, what is your favorite?
Fargo season 3. Which is a show that's close to being this good. But I think this is the most, like, consistently good one we've gotten since Breaking Bad.
Because, yeah, like, the second half of the final season of Breaking Bad
is just... It's clear, it's purple. But let's go to the next one. We're gonna power through. And we will have no shortage of things to talk about. Let me tell you what. Okay. So the plot thickens.
I can't believe, like, twice, I'm like, oh, who's Shayla again?
Shayla? In your defense, Darlene and Shayla kind of look the same. They kind of got, like, the same, like, grungy girl look. So, you all forgiven. It wouldn't be funny if you were just like, oh, that guy in the business, is that Mr. Robot? Like, I don't know who he is.
Who's Christian Slater again?
Yeah, I don't know who he is. Yeah, himself. He's playing himself.
Who's Elliot? Is he the kid from E.T.?
Yep, that's him. Got the hood. It works. Elliot. Okay, so...
Not as good as the pilot, but a strong continuation.
Yes, I think this is more of a bridging the gap episode of just like, this is what's going, setting up what's going to happen. They're obviously going to get ready to take down Steel Mountain. Elliot's about to go through some sort of horrible withdrawal because of Vera getting arrested. There's definitely something going on with Tyrell. Even though his company's going under, he seems to be pretty happy about that. So something is happening there. Maybe we don't know what.
There's a parallel of turning down job positions.
Yes, Elliot is caught between two sides and turns them both down, but ultimately decides to side with F Society.
A rock and a hard place.
And also we get kind of a little bit more of a look at Darlene in this one, just because it's like she was just kind of there before, but here it's just like she's weirdly obtrusive, she's weird and kind of rude and very
she just shows
up in the shower, which is the worst. Like, I don't think that's probably the worst thing you can do if you just like show up unexpectedly at somebody's house that's already something weird. Then it's like using your shower, it's just like, man, like, what?
And then
when you doing that?
And then when you open the door to ask them why they're in their shower, they act like
get away, man.
And then they act like you're the one in the wrong.
Yeah, so something's definitely going on with her too. It's like everybody in the show definitely has their own agenda. Except maybe Angela. Angela's probably the most
she's the straight man.
Yeah, she's the most passive character in the show because she just kind of reacts for what happens. And there's also that guy who gave them the mixtape, who ended up spying, and he was typing Chinese in that chat room, so it's just kind of like, what's this guy all about?
Angela's boyfriend.
Yeah, and Angela's boyfriend's a piece of shit. Surprise, surprise. Shocking. So do you think, this is curious, then if it's like, obviously, Angela and her boyfriend are on a crash course to break up, do you think that she would get together with Elliot? Do you think that's like a love interest kind of thing?
I'm not sure. I kind of like him and Darlene.
Interesting. I like that. There's definitely a lot of different characters you could.
It's like, I always like it when there's a male lead and a female lead, and they don't feel the need to pair them up, and they can just be friends.
Yeah, they thankfully a lot of characters do this. In this show, it's not like automatic. It's like, oh, they're two opposing genders. They must be a couple. I don't like that.
That's one of the most interesting things about Finding Nemo, because they don't have Albert Brooks and Ellen DeGeneres get together.
That's true. I do really like that about the movie. But yeah, so I think this is more of a question episode rather than an answer episode. So we will see what happens next as the plot thickens. Okay, we finished episode 3. I don't remember what it was called, because it's got the weird glitchy font. And this is just basically the secret life of all of these characters is actually really fucking weird. And a very big reveal about Elliot and Angela at the end regarding the death of their parents, which pulls Elliot back into the quest against Evil Corp, even though he was going to give up. And I kind of find, it's mainly because I know what happens next, but I find the episode kind of tragic because it means that Elliot was so close to having like a normal, healthy life, and then the thing with Terry Colby just pulls him back in and just, he makes himself dedicated to it.
Is there a plot device more popular than dead parents?
I don't think so. I think the oldest like plot device is like princess locked in a tower. So it's like the oldest one is love, and then after that it's death. No, the only one that's more common than dead parents is dead children.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I guess it's more common for dead parents to be milked.
There's dead parents, dead children, and dead spouse.
And love.
Yes. just death.
Those are two completely separate things.
Yet it all unifies
into one complete human
Which is funny,
experience.
because we have in Elliot and Angela's, we have death, and over in Tyrell and his wife's, we have sex, so those are the motivations. We find out that Tyrell is, he doesn't get his CTO job, and he's not very happy about that, and believe me, that is not the last you will hear.
He pulls from Jake Gyllenhaal from Nightcrawler. A
bit. He's a bit of a scary man. Self-obsessed, self-critical.
He has a private fight club. Speaking of the Fight Club comparisons that we made.
No, I mean, he just pays a homeless guy so he can beat the shit out of somebody.
True capitalism.
Yeah, that was so funny. He's like, spoken like a true capitalist. And it's funny, the reason I've never seen Tyrell or his wife in anything before, I was just like, these actors, I feel like I should know them. Sam Esmail, the creator of the show, is Dutch, and apparently so are Tyrell and his wife, and they speak Swedish. So I didn't know that. They're just from a different country. And I think Tyrell's last name his name's Martin Wallstrom, and he's got like the 2 dots over the O, so you're like, whoa, it's like Nordic. But yeah, this is, I feel like you could say with every episode, but it's like, the plot thickens.
I think my favorite episode so far is still the pilot.
The pilot is very strong. I think there's something I'm pointing out to Jacob. I'm guessing like a lot of people watching this are probably all my friends that are on Twitter. They're currently watching through Mr. Robot, but I pointed this out to Jacob that you need to have in the back of your head that every shot in this show thus far has been mounted. There have been no handheld shots, which again, very much like David Fincher. He does use handheld shots, but always with a purpose.
But will there be 50 million takes of Andrew Garfield breaking a laptop?
No. Or Jake Gyllenhaal tossing a book. That was the other one in Zodiac. But every shot has been that way thus far. So, if, like, say, David Fincher, he waits to use his handheld shots for a purpose, like at the end of 7, or the chase scene, that's the first time you see it, and those are, like, the most intense and, like, visceral parts in the film. So, you know, maybe just await that scene that uses a handheld for maybe a particular part of the show. Maybe it means something important. And also, we find out about, you know, Mr. Robot shoving Elliot over the pier, and he's just like, well, sorry about that, but, whatever. He really doesn't care that much.
Like, oh, your father had cancer and he wanted to keep it a secret, but you didn't keep the secret, so fuck you.
Yeah, he seems to be in a very opposite camp that Elliot's in. And
trust is key, regardless of how stupid it is.
Mm-hmm. And he shuts out Darlene at the beginning of the episode when she's like,
good.
Hey. Yeah, I mean, she did break into his house.
She broke into his house and used his shower and acted like he was in the wrong for opening the shower.
And poor Shayla comes back and she's just like, I don't know how to deal with this. And I love the scene with Shayla where he's just like, oh, will you be my girlfriend? Because he's so socially awkward, he just doesn't know. And then they have that really nice moment where she's like, this is all the stuff that I make.
Reminds me of that scene with the scenes of Jesse Eisenberg talking to his girlfriend in Social Network, and she's all like, you're an asshole.
Oh, the scene, you mean with the scene with Rooney Mara at the beginning, the very first scene. Yeah, that's great. Just like, you're gonna go through your life and think that girls treat you like shit because you're a nerd. And I'm here to tell you from the bottom of my heart, that's not why. It's not because you're a nerd. It's because you're an asshole. Which is such a great line. Which again, I never really made the Social Network comparisons to this before. I really just sort of was like, it makes me think of Fight Club, of Requiem for a Dream, of Tyrell and Joanna Wellick's storyline eventually becomes very Macbeth-y. I believe in this next episode, but things are definitely looking to be ambitious in all of our characters' near future. For what does the future hold, I wonder? I think we're gonna eat something now. So delicious. Alright, we just finished episode 4, entitled Daemons. You picked a really great time to do that. Are you just here to derail us? We got food. I guess there's that. So, this episode...
Holy shit.
Wow. I believe this was the first episode I think Morgan gave a 10 to, I believe. But... yeah, this episode was really interesting. They got really creative with the filmmaking there in the middle when Elliot's withdrawal happened. Like
handheld shots.
Yeah, the handheld shots.
Because he was physically imbalanced.
Yes, and look out for the next one too, because this one's even more important. But something I really like the way they shot his withdrawal scene is that they clearly shot it in a very high frame rate, and like sped it up, but then slowed it down, so everything was moving at normal speed. But it looked like it was happening slower, just because of how weird Elliot experiences time. Just that entire sequence of him just going through withdrawal is incredible, just because of how weird they get. And now that I know what happens in the show, going back and watching that, there's a lot of really good foreshadowing, a lot of good double meanings. And we find out that the weird stalker guy who's been... blackmailing Angela's boyfriend is Darlene's Dark Army contact. So, I wonder what that's... They haven't mentioned it much, but Dark Army is one of the most important parts of the show. They're like more evil Chinese F society. And their leader's very interesting. That'll be a...
Is it
can of worms.
Tyrell, or is it
well, I won't say anything. But, I liked... this is one of those...
Wasn't much Tyrell in this episode.
No. To be fair, he's about to be pretty important. You all know if you've seen it. But, one of my favorite things about this episode in particular is the way the narration is used. Because a lot of the times, narration is used with lazy writers without a purpose. And, one of the best examples of... film using narration, in my opinion, that adds to the benefit of the film is Fight Club.
And Usual Suspects.
That's true, but I think Fight Club utilizes the narrative device better because it's all in service of how the main character sees the world, which is also the case here because we're never taken outside Elliot's perspective. Like, that's what him seeing and hearing the words Evil Corp sort of signifies, is that we are following his perspective right now. So, it's a weird question to ask when everything is so up in the air, but what do you foresee happening plot-wise? Not twist-wise, but like, where do you think this is all headed? I'm very curious.
Well, Tyrell is going to somehow interfere with the F Corps.
F Society?
F Society. I can't, sorry. And somehow Dark Army is going to fuck with everybody.
You're not entirely off base. I think...
Christian Slater is going to be amazing.
Well, Christian Slater is always amazing. He was especially good here. I like how he comforted Elliot, just because it's like, you kind of worry he's being too much of an asshole, so Elliot's like, why are you even there, man? But it's like, oh, he's showing him some guidance a bit. And for those of you who've seen the show, it just kind of adds to something that happens later. But, yeah, I think this is a truly excellent episode, because I think the filmmaking throughout the show is consistently great, but when they get weird and experimental, which are my favorite episodes, I'm sure everybody pretty much conclusively agrees that if not the best episode of the show, but one of, is in the second season, where something like that happens, like the scene where he's going through withdrawal, except it's different, and the show undergoes a bit of a style change, which is my favorite thing a television program has done in a really long time. And there's also an episode in season 3 where they get more creative with filmmaking too. They do an entire episode in one shot. They Birdman it.
No.
And it's...
Is it more Birdman similar or more Revenant similar?
No, Birdman. It has like a couple cuts, but like Birdman, it hides it like super well to the point where you just can't notice.
Because like, I can't decide if the cinematography is more experimental in The Revenant or Birdman. It's so good in both.
I'd say it's more in Birdman just because of how it utilizes the camera. Revenant is... I think that's more revolutionary when it comes to lighting, especially your usage of like natural light.
Yeah. Imagine being the one guy that screwed up the takes in Revenant.
Oh, God. Inarritu is not a director I would want to have angry at me. Can you imagine if like Tom Hardy fucked up and just like Inarritu just beats the shit out of him and just be like, what are you doing? That'd be really funny. I'd watch the shit out of that. I want a Christian Bale style rant with Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. But yeah, the next episode is...
Well, did you know God is a squirrel?
God is a squirrel. I don't remember, again, the episode that I told him that will... If it hasn't hooked him already, which luckily it has, but if it didn't, the episode Brave Traveler, which is, I believe, the episode after the one we're about to watch, is, it's an episode, alright. So... And now we dive deeper into the web. Okay, we finished episode 5, and now we're at Brave Traveler, but, ooh, man. So that was... Steel Mountain failed horribly because the Dark Army are a bunch of bitches. Darlene is sad. Portia Doubleday is sad. Everybody's pretty sad.
Poor Bill.
Right? Poor Bill! You will be surprised, or you will be happy to learn, this is not the last appearance of Bill. He does show up.
Thank you.
Everybody's favorite character, Bill, the guy who worked at Steel Mountain.
Like, he didn't deserve that.
No. Oh, and not to mention, Tyrell's story is starting to look a bit more into view. He's, trying to do something with the guy who stole his job.
He was the creepiest motherfucker ever.
When he walked in on his wife, that was just like so uncomfortable.
So he was at a dinner party with the guy who took his job, and that guy's wife was taking a piss, and then he walked into the bathroom while she's trying to pee, just stood in front of her for 10 seconds, and then she pulled back her dress like, okay, you want to fuck? And then he
just walked out like a pimp. And man, like this is now like everything went wrong in episode 5. Like everything went horribly for everybody. Episode 6 is the downward spiral. This is
that a good thing?
The show is certainly more compelling. Not for a lot of the characters. Let's just say it's...
Does Christian Slater live?
Well, I mean, he's who knows?
I mean, if he's the titular character, he has to make it the whole time.
That's not necessarily true. And, well, the character in question that we're worried about right now, though, would be Shayla. Because remember, she called, Elliot, and he didn't answer, and then Vera called right after that. So, something's going on here, and Vera does not like Elliot, so things are about to happen.
Shayla and Angela need more screen time together.
True. And poor Angela, she left her stupid boyfriend, but she goes home and her dad, who is awesome, honey, he was a douchebag. Her dad's so nice.
Reminds me of the dad in Donnie Darko.
Yeah,
You know, son, you know what we say to people like that? Fuck you.
I've been looking so long at these pictures of you that I almost believe that they're real.
You want to watch me pee too? I drank like 3 cups of water.
Nice that you diffused the tension. So yeah, that was Brave Traveler.
Are you fucking kidding me? Shayla's dead.
Every time I still get chills because they make that moment last so long. Like, you know she's dead, but they don't show it, so you have in the back of your head, like, maybe, no, she's definitely...
They wrote her out of the show already?
Oh, yeah.
What is this, Game of Thrones?
I was gonna say, this is when you learn that Mr. Robot doesn't give a fuck about who they kill.
I remember, in my Harry Potter class, my professor talked about how, like, literally on the anniversary of Deathly Hallows every year, J.K. Rowling is like, I'm so sorry for killing this character. And every single time she does that, she gets a retweet from George R.R. Martin that just says, cute.
It's true. And it's just like, I think this is such a pivotal moment for Elliot because he had that normal life that he thought would make him happy, and then the thing about Terry Colby came out. And then this was like, oh, maybe he might break back into that. He's got Shayla now, and now she's on the up and up, and now they finished the Steel Mountain thing. But not only did Steel Mountain fail, Shayla gets kidnapped by a psychopath, and the only likable character that comes from that gets shot in the head, and then Shayla ends up dead in the back of a trunk. So it's just like, oh, good lord. And not to mention, now, good old Tyrell's boss knows about him being all creepy McCreeper on his wife, so that's not gonna result in anything good. Basically, everything sucks. Oh, and dude,
Death, I want.
don't, like, the season is nowhere done with its punches. Not even close. Ooh, Nelly.
2 kids gonna die tonight.
It's such an approach. 2 kids gonna die tonight.
Why is his name Ouija?
Just Luigi from Mario Bros. Cartoon.
Why did you turn 270 degrees around instead of the easier 90 this way?
We say John Trump quotes because we're dead inside. Well, that was the Fallout episode, but this was Terrell's downward spiral episode rather than Elliot's. Did you expect that to happen?
Well, I mean, like, I expected him to do something this episode because he's mostly just been there the first 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm. He's been passive so far.
And you said he was a main character, so I'm like, is he going to do something before season 2?
Oh yes, very important. He's arguably the most important character of season 2, but that's in the future / past.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Oh, you have no idea. So let's see. He killed the new CTO's wife. Elliot confessed to his therapist that he's not a fan of privacy. And it seems like Darlene is getting the gang back together to try again because they still have that thing in Steel Mountain.
And
So
Ollie is being confronted by the guy who sold him the CD.
The Dark Army guy, yes. And they think they are going to have a meeting with a mysterious person named White Rose.
Played by B.D. Wong, apparently.
Yes, I did confess to that just because there was a very funny Jurassic Park coincidence that we were talking about, but not in the way that you'll expect, I'm
so
sure.
he's not over the top and like he was in Jurassic World?
No.
Did he die in Jurassic World? I can't
No.
remember.
I'm pretty sure he's a character in the new one, you know.
So
'cause
only
we care.
Vincent D'Onofrio died.
Yeah, as is his wont. Well, we're in the home stretch now, episode 8, and it's titled White Rose, so that means something important's gonna happen.
President Snow?
Yep, that's it.
He had the
Hunger Games. They did mention Hunger Games. Yay!
This is the worst show ever. It sucks.
Great. Cool. So we went in a gauntlet for the last 3. I think Jacob's mind is a bit spent.
Why did you deep fry my brain?
It was a microchip and you put it in a microwave. This is exactly why I wanted to do that. Just so I could see the gradual deterioration.
So now I can't watch season 2 unless we watch it together.
Well, if your dad's got Amazon Prime. If he does.
Yeah, but we can't record another video.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just do it at another time. Or hell, you could watch it on your own and then we could do a podcast about it. Morgan could join us when he finishes season 2.
Okay, 2 problems with that. Number 1, do you think Morgan is going to finish it anytime soon?
Probably, yeah.
And number 2, you won't get to see my raw reaction.
True. It would be more important to do it for season 3, though. There's only a handful of, raw reaction material, and it's, in the middle of the season rather than the end. But, yeah, 3 would be one we should all do together. But,
It's midnight, I haven't had dinner, and I'm gonna eat a turkey
yeah,
sandwich.
but, so, overall, season 1... That's disgusting.
I didn't actually do it.
I know, but it's gross.
A million, billion, cajillion out of 10.
Yeah, safe to say I think I also give it a 10.
As far as TV shows go,
And it's not even over yet.
I mean, I still rank it at 3rd place behind Breaking Bad and Monster, but...
I mean, Monster's literally your favorite thing ever, so I don't exactly expect that to go away. I think after season 3 I can call it as good as Breaking Bad. If it finishes as good as it has been, it'll be just as good.
Because, I mean, season 1 of Breaking Bad, season 3, season 4, the second half of season 5 is some of the best thing ever put to film. I mean, season 2 and season 5A are
They're good. They have weaker moments. But I don't think this show ever falters. In first 3 seasons, and I don't think it's...
Well, really, the only... I know some people like to... Because the plane crash sucked, that means all of season 2 sucked.
Which is wrong.
No.
The second half of season 2 I think is great. The first half is mainly just Skylar and Walt arguing, and I don't like that because I don't like to watch it.
Oh, and also...
Skylar sucks.
The only episode in season 4 that sucked was the episode that dedicated Marie stealing a souvenir spoon, or was that season 3? I don't remember.
Because I don't like that episode, I don't remember either. So yeah, I think that's gonna close it for the day. Can you tell why it's my favorite?
No, the worst thing ever made.
Thank you.
Why did you make me watch this atrocity?